So pro level tablets, you're looking at something like the iPad Pros as sort of the benchmark when it comes to those pro level tablets. And they're particularly designed effectively to be a hybrid between your mobile phone and your laptop. In fact, some people use those pro tablets as a replacement for the laptop because they want the mobile experience but in a larger display. And that's where this Samsung Tab S10 Plus comes in. This £1,000, dollar or euro tablet has tons of really great features. But on the face of it, maybe the design isn't as appealing as a $1,000 tablet should be. In fact, the display is probably the highlight of the design when it comes to the S10 Plus. So let's give you the rundown. Essentially what you're looking at here is an amalgamation of essentially everything that Samsung has changed over the last, say, 12 months and made everything flat. Of course, tablets will always have flat displays, but the design style and aesthetic is very reminiscent of what you're seeing in the S25 and before that the S24 FE series as well, where you had this completely flat display. This 12.4 inch AMOLED 120Hz panel is stunning. What's also quite stunning is this actually has an SD card slot on the top. Mind-boggling. Also, when we're talking about design, it actually has quad firing speakers as well. So you get 4 total speakers on the Tab S10 Plus, and design-wise, it is very nice. In fact, if you look at the rear, you got your dual lenses, which is a 13 megapixel wide, 8 megapixel ultra wide, and then you get an additional camera on the front as well. There's no testing in this review of the cameras because realistically, not many people will use them, but they are pretty serviceable. Video is at 4K. You also get a panel here which will magnetically attach your pen as well. So if you wanted to annotate, draw, and use some of the functions that are built into this tab, you can do so. In fact, let's actually talk about some of those functions. So the OS that lives on this Tab S10 Plus is not a tablet OS like iPad OS. In fact, it is a mobile OS stretched out to fit this tablet. But let's talk about some of the key features of it. So the Tab S10 Plus has tons of really great features and is optimized a lot within One UI 6.1 and Android 14, which it is running to allow you to experience what you want to experience on a larger display. So things like using multiple windows, browsing the OS, all that will feel very similar if you are a Samsung One UI user or if you are an Android user as a whole. So it's going to be pretty at home here, to be honest. And then one of the main things I would say is quite interesting is this should get One UI 7, which I think will be a really big change for it. Moving from normal to DeX mode literally makes no difference, so just keep it as it is. But then if you move across to AI functions, that's when things are super interesting. You get tons of really great AI features. In fact, let's go through some of those to give you an idea. And we're going to focus on the productivity ones here. So you can change and summarize long text into summary using AI, and it's really good and really accurate. We've used a Samsung article here from Wikipedia as an example. You can also generate wallpapers, a few prompts, and yes, you can get an AI generated wallpaper like we actually have done here as an example of what you can achieve. It's pretty random, but it's actually pretty cool and does a really good job. You've got a sketch to image where you can actually create a fake image on someone or in an environment, or you can remove that image. All those functions exist within this Samsung Tab S10 Plus, as well as the key thing being Google's Gemini AI also is prominently living on here as well. So all the great functions that come with that are also on here. So there's a ton of really great AI features that help power the OS as well. And that OS as a whole is optimized reasonably well for the Samsung Tab S10 Plus. But one of the things I would say though is you're missing quite a few of the apps which haven't been adapted. So if you're using a lot of social media apps, some of those don't actually look all that great on this tab. So factor that in. Now, if you're dropping £1,000, euros or dollars on this tablet, you may not get the best social media experience. In terms of experience though, the gaming experience and the performance experience of the chipset that lives inside the S10 Plus, well, that's really interesting. Last year's Tab S9 Plus actually had a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset, and this year's Tab S10 Plus has a Dimensity 9300 Plus chipset. Now, before you turn it off and think, oh my God, what on earth? In fact, if you actually benchmark that 9300 Plus versus a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, The 9300 actually performs slightly better overall. Yes, it's not quite an 8 Elite chipset, but it still performs incredibly well. And you realize this when you're using the tablet, you don't get any slowdown, no performance issues at all. It is rapid, it runs butter smooth. And then the display, when it comes to graphics, in terms of processing AI functions, all that works really well. But where this tablet shines the most, especially on that processor, is, as you guessed, when it comes to gaming. One provision I would say that when it comes to gaming though is if you are using this by hand and not a controller, it does get a bit cumbersome, especially when you're playing games like Grid, for example, and while you're turning to get the car to turn, it's not the most eloquent way of doing things. Probably use a controller if I was you. Otherwise, for everything else, performance-wise is very good. And gaming as a whole, especially on this large 12.4-inch display with its really great blacks and really great brightness levels as a whole, is an excellent experience. And as a whole, I would say the Tab S10 Plus is a very good experience. Is it enough to replace a full-blown laptop? No, but isn't it as an extension of your phone? It's a pretty good buy. But the question we would have to ask though is, if you're looking for an extension of your phone but that's not quite a laptop, then why would you spend £1,000 on a tablet that doesn't have all those really high-level pro features? Now we can do an iPad comparison. So if you look at the iPad Pros, they get Final Cut Pro, which is obviously Apple's own baked-in software, which allows them to fully video edit everything. In fact, you can even get DaVinci Resolve on there. You can't get DaVinci Resolve on the Tab S10 Plus or any non-Apple iOS tablet, which is a shame. So these Pro tablets, which are £1,000, if you buy the S10 Ultra, that's £1,300 or £1,200, they can't actually run one of the main things that I would say would be an alert to something like this, which is the ability to edit video, which is a shame. So why not save your money and buy something half the cost, something like the OnePlus Pad 2 or something similar for like £400 or £500. They'll give you a very similar experience and you won't have to pay that much money for it. For us though, this is a great experience. If you have the budget and you're not bothered, grab yourself one. It's a great tablet. But if you're a pro level user and you want to video edit, photo edit in a really high level, grab yourself an iPad Pro. Thank you so much for watching. Till next one, we out.